Okay, welcome back to the 416th Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, January 20th, 2022. Hello, Mr. Kesh. Are you ready to take questions here in this second part of the workshop? Or how would you like to?
Well, as usual, as we say, we are ready to rumble.
Ready to rumble. Well, we have a question that came up first in the YouTube from Salomia, who asks, coherence between the soul of man and the soul of physicality is the secret of balance and equilibrium. So how can we create it?
Create what? The equilibrium?
The coherence between the soul of man and the soul of physicality, which
partially is the emotion. Partially is the emotion of the man. Detachment. And understanding it. This is this what you call coherence goes where we totally separate from a lot of things, because it's the responsibility of every man for himself at a point when they, whatever they don't know what to come back to, and don't leave part behind and add some part too. And is totality of the physicality that we have to understand. This is what I keep on going back to, that Keshe Foundation is not a religious group. Keshe Foundation is not a cult. Keshe Foundation is not another organization. It's a scientific, new science. You have to understand the science of it, how it happens. And you take from it according to your understanding of the knowledge. You don't need any PhDs or professor to understand it. If you get enlightened, if you understand the principle, it takes you a few seconds to understand most of the work. And then you can replicate it, and people say, oh, this is this you understanding the way you do, and the way you understood. I work with a knowledge seeker, has no education whatsoever. Just been to the ordinary 12th year. We've just been brought up in a farming family. But his knowledge of the plasma is beyond hundreds of professors to put together, because he understood the fundamental. Those who try to achieve it or to copy it, to replicate it, it will be very difficult. Because you have to be able to enjoy its existence, enjoy the knowledge you gained, and to be able to share it. And if you want to be able to replicate it, that others can enjoy it. And we see this right across the knowledge seekers. Each one of them in their own special fields, or they understood something and they knew something added up, are adding to the knowledge new things, new ways, new machinery, everything we see coming up. And they put it there is a conjunction of this technology and the Keshe Foundation. And that's the beauty of it. And they implement it. And they explain it. This is what it is from there, and this is part from there. It's the same. Connecting the soul and the technology and the knowledge together. And he can do it. Then it's being able to share and give and sort that out, which is part of the whole structure and the process. Any other question?
We have Ed here, the hand up. I think he'll have a question. Go ahead, Ed.
Good morning, Mr. Cash. This is Ed from Indiana. In a way, you've kind of answered my question with your first explanation here, but I remember from the first time you introduced the GANs, Cup 1s and Cup 2s, my question at that time was how do we understand how to make a GANs of the proper strength to interact with a certain plasma strength? I remember when you used to work in your garage, you told us you used to just look at the lights in the dark because you understood the significance of what was happening with the light and the colors of the lights. And we don't have, like what you presented to us this morning, we don't have tools to operate at that level. And it seems to me the only tools we have are the fields of our understanding and perception. And so I guess my question is, what are the tools? How do we develop the tools to work at this level?
You don't need machinery, you don't need reactors. If you go back to one of the teachings, and many times, I said you can hold your hand and create the light. You, as a dynamic plasma system, we can do this. We can create it. We know how to access energies. We do it physically. We rub our hand to each other and we create heat. Now we can hold or position ourselves and create interaction of the plasma of the field of the man with his aura, you call it, and create the same. And see how, what would be the reaction of it, what would be the outcome of it. This is the part of understanding of the totality. And this is what we need to understand. We need to be able to put together with a simple understanding of the technology. You don't need to be a magician or to be a professor to create it. When you look at I'm going to go back to it. When you look at the picture which I put on earlier on, and if you understood the principle of what this picture means, when we expand, maybe it's another picture, when we understand the principle, does not matter what they give us. People in villages of Amazon will use the same system and they will reach the same by pots. They don't need nuclear reactors. Is understanding the technology or understanding the knowledge counts. When you look at this picture, in reality, there is no difference application of technology in the Iranian nuclear reactor, in the brain enhancement unit, or in the body enhancement unit. One creates a flight. One handles the body of the man in different strengths, and the other handles the emotion. And the tools of the knowledge is there. All the same in all three. Is application and implication. And if I stand the man in this gap, then what would be the difference? You got to realize how much you understand of the knowledge, how you explain the knowledge. And how you you interpret the knowledge and what that interpretation leads you to. And what you want to gain from it. And how much of it you can accept and you can add to. Then you don't need systems. I mentioned his, what we call the name of and the presence of Professor Leslie, the head of the nuclear department of Queen Mary College, as head of my department. And at that time, as I said many times, we were on the edge of the science in 70s and 80s, even though we were 40 days down the line of nuclear bomb. In the final year, and in the back end of the second year in teachings, there was no books written. The professors were sitting one-to-one across the table. That was the knowledge shared. We were reading of their own. They were teaching us of the research papers of their own, or the PhDs. We had some cases where the PhD was doing the research, comes in the teaching with the professor, sits across three of us, trying to explain the knowledge. And to me at that time, many times I had this interaction and what you call discussion with Professor Leslie, because he was a very bright man, he could understand the lack in the knowledge. I explained to him, why should I accept what, because you written, to be acceptable to me because it doesn't make sense to me. He said, I have no more to share. You know more than me. I'm learning from you most of the time than teaching you. And I said, these are the questions as scientists, as a human being, we have to answer. It just doesn't need to be a nuclear physicist. I remember once he said to me, I look forward to the days in the week when I teach you, because I become a student most of the time. We have to understand what is in our hand as a knowledge. And how do we apply it in the cases we want, the conditions we create? Because once you learn to walk, you can run, you can jump, you can dive, you can do anything. The limitation comes by how much you extend that part. You can run a few meters. You can train yourself to become a marathon runner. You can train yourself to become a jumper. Or you can use those legs to become a diver. It's the same with the knowledge. You have to understand how you want to extend it, how you want to train it, and how you understand it to benefit you or to give you the pleasure of the existence. You like to run marathon, that gives you a pleasure. You want to be a diver, it gives you a pleasure. But it can be both, if you understood how to use your legs. And this is what we try to push the knowledge seekers to the next level of. Understanding the process, creating the condition. And this is what we as knowledge seekers expect, extend, and try to find out. We show the knowledge is for you to apply it according to what you understand of it, in extension of the knowledge you have, or the emotion you have, or your understanding you have. This is why the teachings are, even you call it about the soul teaching, the soul is the fundamental plasma. You put a name because you understand that way. To me, a soul is a neutron. How do I want it to interact? How do I want it to divide? How do I want it to be in a creation of physicality or soul out of physicality, because electron, and create the interaction of between the two, the atom, what we call the physicality of the man. I'm a man of science, and I understand the science of the creation. And with it, we can interpret it in the world of the theology, in the world of the plasma physics, in the world of matter state, or in any shape or form you want. I know how to walk. And I know how to walk the knowledge of the creation and the creator. That's all. And you can do the same. But you have to be able to don't create dogmas, don't create limitation of, because I've been told this should be. Accept the knowledge and add to it the way what you think can be. Not what you've been told, and you're trying to frame the new knowledge in that frame you've been told. It's not a painting with a frame. It's a universe blank. It's you who paints it. And it has no frame. And it has no limitation in understanding of it. What do you do if you land on Mars and you see a new dimension? Let's go back and ask Mr. Keshe what it is. Or let's go and see what the others say, or you have enough knowledge to analyze it, understand it, react to it, and make the best of it. That's what all these teachings are. Always go back to what I told you. My uncle in Tel Aviv told me when I met him for the last time in the year 2000. He said, when one member of the family went to Moscow and came back in the early beginning of last century, he said, the Russians have a metal bird, it flies. We all laughed at him, metal bird. A few years later, we saw the planes and what we call airports. Was it him being crazy, or was it our lack of understanding that the technology and knowledge has extended? We were blind to it. And this is what it is. The knowledge is there. Are you the man who's in Moscow? Are you the man ridiculing the man who already seen it? And you are one of those who will see it as you develop more of. And then do you rely on others to accept it, or what you've seen, you have decided, and you have created to the next condition? Openness is the key to understanding the creation. Dogmas and limitation to fit into the books you read is how you've been controlled by yourself and nobody else. You don't need nuclear reactors. When you look at this reactor here, next to it, you just see the shadow of another reactor. I hope I can find it. And I can share it with you. And it's very interesting. The reason this is interesting is the capability and the ability to make things according to what we have. And many times when I look at this, it makes me laugh, but it brings me different kind of joy to understand how, at the same time as being able to, you're limited by own what we call environment, your own conditions. When you, let me choose a couple of pictures, maybe I can explain it in a much deeper way. When you look at these, what we call reactors, you will understand what I'm talking about, because it's very fundamental. What we had, what we could have, and what happened to us. I try to get it in the best way possible. When you look at these reactors here, it's the same reactors. You see the flying reactor on the right side, the mother reactor in the middle, and then you see a metal reactor. I tried to go here, now you see the metal reactor next to the mother on the other side, plus its flying system. These metal reactors, for us to build, it took us nearly a year and a half to build these two. The metal had to be brought in from South Korea and everything else. It took the Iranians 7 days because they had the facilities to build it in Sharif Tehran University, these two. That's a difference. And the difference between the two is about a year. When you have the facilities, you do it in a much faster way. And when you do it in other ways, you just take time. And this is what the technology is, what you can make best of, in what you understand. And then you add your own flavor. In 20, 30 years time down the line, many of the things which now is done by knowledge seekers will come open that they use the technology. By the time now, people don't see it, they don't see the benefit of it, or they don't understand it, or they're not using it. But at the end, it's benefiting mankind. And that was the whole purpose of teaching and open sourcing. And it's the same with you. You have to be teaching yourself and open your eyes into the full dimension of the work. Any other question?
Thank you, Mr. Kesh. We have Marinez as well with the hand up here, and we've got a couple of other questions in the Q&A and other places as well. I guess Marinez had an inadvertent hand up. Paulo has had a question for the last couple of workshops that we haven't gotten in, so perhaps it's a good time now for that. There's a couple of different questions here. Mr. Kesh, was the divine wind that protected Japan from invading Mongols over the sea and Russians over land created by generals and their soldiers by lowering the heartbeat frequency close to Earth's 8 hertz vibration?
I do not know what you're talking about.
I don't know either. Okay, the next question. It is known that the samurai, without the stress of the fights, had the custom to gather the leaders in offering tea, even in the desired field, to have a better future vision of the battle. Could it be that from these tea ceremonies that they developed the ability to lower their frequencies and have these superpowers?
What do you mean?
Again, he's talking about lowering the heartbeat frequency close to the Earth's 8 hertz vibration, I think. And I'm not sure, I haven't heard that before. In the Bible, this final question is, in the Bible, Israeli soldiers pass by with screams tearing down the walls of the besieged city of Jericho. In this case, is it the same phenomenon as the Japanese divine wind, or is it more like the indigenous rain dance?
Do you have any comments? Rick?
I couldn't choose between divine wind and indigenous rain dance. I don't think it would be the same thing. I don't know exactly what I'm talking about, but perhaps it's more they enter into a state where they're more attuned to the psychic realms, perhaps, and they can maybe see into the past and future more clearly, or have powers like that to have some sort of, I mean, the leaders have used priests and seers and people that can, the prophets that can tell them what to expect and how to deal with situations. So I guess he's talking about.
You see, maybe that's one way of explaining it as you do. Maybe what we'll see, you want to change the picture, Rick, on the screen. What we see is that if we create enough energy that we can extend it beyond the boundary, or with the interaction of the other fields, we can extend it. We could create energy fields which can cross walls and God knows materials or gases. This is not a magic, this is understanding how we can increase the field strength or match a field strength that there is no resistance. And did they manage to create that kind of fields through emotion of winning, wanting to rule? The way we sweat when we get excited, the way we glow when something happens inside us. And if it's 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 of the same state, would that create, or did they create a condition that they could balance the fields of the wall or whatever, because it's made of brick and mortar? What was that wall built of if it was there? And component of it are within the structure of physicality of the man that he can make the gas of, strength of. So nowadays we can explain these things, because it's not that it can be done, is that we have the knowledge, we know how to do it. We know how to expand it and extend it. We can do a lot of things nowadays. I get a lot of calls, a lot of communication. I had a meeting with somebody in the nuclear industry last night for about an hour and a half. And at the top of and the bottom of the conversations and everything else, and what I get from a lot of you, Mr. Cash, can you help us with the side effect? Can you help us to stop the effect of whatever with this new plasma situation? Yes, it is. Yes, we can explain why so many people are dying of heart attacks and everything else, and some don't. And what happens to what? These things I can clearly explain. Can you stop the effect of the 5G with what you call the new injection processes? Yes, you can. We have the knowledge. We saw yesterday a couple of communication companies in the US stopped using the launch of their 5G or G5 to run some airports because of the interference. And we saw the first interference with the landing gear. And we watch and we see and we understand the technology. Many of you write to me in many chats, can we stop the whatever is in the new injections? Yes, you can. You have the knowledge. But you haven't understood how to use that knowledge. Inherently, when you are injected with anything to your body, be it vitamins, be it whatever, you create that material. It's the same as I said, when you enter the system. And this is how much of it we understood. I just received a picture from our team in the background. I want to explain something which is fundamentally interesting if you understand it. This is the picture of the flight system put together now in China. There is no reactors built in yet. They're finishing the inside. This now is a matter state system. The guy standing in it is still a man. Once we put the reactors within these walls, then we create a universal system, a plasmatic system, where the same brain of the man, internal structure, becomes part of the field force. His emotion where to go dictates the position of this system. No scientific organization, no organization in the field of space technology at the edge we are so openly shares knowledge and pictures. Because we are not afraid. We are looking for extension and addition and collaboration. You are knowledge seekers, other governments, other establishments, other scientists. This is what I explained to you. This is now still a house, a room you enter. Because we haven't installed the what we call creation of the fields to make it into a plasma. There is a big difference. There is a massive difference between what we call the two conditions. When this system, when this structure is sealed, here you're a man. When I seal it, you are in condition of the plasmatic field, there is no rocket propulsion to forward you. It's the interaction of the field of the system. As I said, it creates both fields inside and outside. Inside keeps you intact in the condition of the plasma. Outside interacts with the fields of the planet or any environment to fly. Inside, it creates life, sustains life, maintains life. Outside protects life from outside or what is inside, but at the same time finds a position in respect to. Go back to understanding of the what we did, and I wish Rick could one day have static pictures of this that we can use it because it's done a lot of work there. When you put a magnet and you put other magnets, and you put another magnet, and you put series of magnets on the table, you got to understand the field interacts, creates position. But this is interacting with this too. And part of these fields divides to interact the position between this and this and this, and collectively creating a new position. Where this again divides somewhere else into this one, and then plus the field of this. Division of magnetic fields create a condition of magnet position, and this is what knowledge seekers have not understood up to. Why it takes this position? Because not only interacts, not only the field of these two, there is a fraction of this field as well, which totality dictates. It's the same with this one. Fraction of what this say its position of. Fraction of what comes out of here as well dictates the position. It's totality. And then with another, and then with another, and then we'll see that magnetic fields can be divided. Not only we are in the dilemma of can you bend it? We can, with the new knowledge, even divide it. But how do you divide it? That's a skill, that's a knowledge, and it's done every second of life in your body, on planet Earth, in the solar system, and in the galaxy. This is the understanding of technology, of the knowledge of the magnetic fields. And if I put you, as you saw, with a man in a craft and create that plasma condition, I have to bring you here. But at the same time, I have to inform this one you are here too. And then be able to transport you, if you want, to this position. Understanding what I have to gain and what I have to give to maintain the same man. Does not matter where I take him, I deliver him the same. Unless the man's soul decides to go a different way and the environment changes and he wants to manifest in the condition of God. I want to go to the man, but still be, I want to go to the moon, but still to be a man. No problem. What conditions around you on the moon I have to create to maintain you as a man? The freedom to be able to walk without wearing any clothes. Up to now, we sealed you in a clothing. Now, we seal you in an envelope of the fields that gives you that condition to me. We create you the bubble. But by understanding what that bubble needs to provide you, for you to be in that condition to look like a man. And what happens if the bubble bursts? Would you look still like a man, or would you survive as a man? What do I need to add to bring you back to be seen? You become a quarter of the size you are, or you become 10 times bigger than you are. We need to understand. Once we understand, we can apply. Very soon, we will see the reactors, flight reactors in Arizona, in Tehran, and in Austria. And then we learn more. And then we bring in scientists to create a condition of the fields of the moon or Earth and travel to and come back. But would the knowledge be extended enough by June that the man who will be able to travel as a man to the moon and come back? It's no use getting a man to the moon and just saying, oh, you're on the moon, and then bring him back. You want to let him loose. You want to let him enjoy. You want to let him to understand the creation. When you go to sandy beaches of Miami, you just don't want to sit and fly back out. You want to go on the beach. You want to taste the salty water of the Atlantic. You want to touch the sand and how it feels with that water. There's no good there taking you there and saying, oh, that's it, go back. But to travel this distance in a matter of a day and back, you need to bring a new technology, you need to bring a new understanding. You need to bring a combination of the knowledges together to be able to do it. This is the problem that knowledge seekers have to understand. This is why we are negotiating with NASA. We just don't want a bunch of people who understand propulsion trying to come in and force their way. We want them to understand the new way and see what we can bring in with the landings and everything else, what we have to consider, what machines we have to make, and the rest of it. This is the key to the next step of expanding the knowledge. Understanding the totality that the field has a, what we call an RNA, an emotion, and understanding that the fields can be divided. This caboodle which we carry, that if we can bend the light, is in reality if we can bend our own understanding, that we bend it ourselves not to see the reality. Now we do. Now we have no choice. We have to expand on it and understand how to do it. And I said, this question came to me at the age of 8 and 9 on the X-ray machine. If that thing can create that thing which goes through me to add to or take from me, I want to be able to do it in a free way. I decide if it's X-ray or gamma ray. I remember when I was just the first years in England, I wrote to my father, you know, this new machine MRI can do more than what you think, and the way it's done is not the right way. He wrote to me, Mehran, you come and build it because I know you think different way and it might work the way you think. Because we use matter state electric current, so we are limited to matter state entity and condition. When we use a plasmatic and maybe use the same system, the same knowledge, the same know-how, we totally achieve different conditions and positions. What happens in our knowledge. Once a gap is in our knowledge, does not mean it doesn't exist. We have to find out how we can create it and bring us in our position of knowledge. I've battled for 30 years, maybe more, to understand gravity, but it was sitting right in front of me because I wasn't ready to analyze it the way it is. I wanted to force partially and mainly the conditions which I was brought up as a scientist and a nuclear physicist. When I saw the power in plasma and how you can use the same thing without matter state, game changed. Keshe Foundation now is a scientific structure that depends how much of the science you understand. We share a lot. You maybe understand the agriculture, somebody understands the energy, somebody understands the other part of it. But very few of you might understand 2 or 3 of them in the true sense that you can use it. And I'm not there to show this can be done just to become a magician. I learned that from Magrath Blueprint Week. How everything was becoming so ridiculous. You feed us, we take it, and if it is, you're right. If it's not what we understand, it's something wrong with you. No, it's something wrong with you. You haven't understood. You haven't understood the principle of the creation of the Magrath system. The blame is not in the pot maker. The blame is that you don't know how to use the pot. The pot is not for sitting on it, it's for to drink out of it. When you're sitting on it, as I said many times, you have to understand the science, not to become a copycat. As long as you say copycats, you stay in the same frame. It's past thousands of years. Any other question?
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. Azar, I think you're next. Oops, it just disappeared.
Good morning, Mr. Keshe. I'm here. You just you switch my status.
Okay.
I think something happened there.
Okay, I think I'll switch it back to attendee here and just give you the vocal. If that worked.
You need to change your screen, Rick, when you get time.
Okay.
I think we're good to go. Good morning, Mr. Keshe. I just want to ask get a confirmation of this. The way I understand what you explained today, I think Universal Council has a lot of power. It's just like the positioning that we have is sometimes is kind of crooked. The way I can explain it is this, the way I understand it in my mind. You see how sometimes you buy a gadget and then you read the instruction, it says you have to add this piece to this one and this one and this one. And then once you adding to it and you're playing with it and it says at the end of it, a light shows up because I bought a mirror and the mirror was saying, when you connect it, you touch the mirror and the light shows up. And I was playing with it and the light wasn't showing up. And then I was thinking, what's going on? And then, so it was one position that I just have to touch it in, it was very sensitive, one position, it just the light showed up. So just like the way you see with all the positioning, our positioning is kind of crooked. So it means once that position changes, it's going to change everything because it's so much power in there. So another thing I noticed, this also came to me is like through the eyes, we can control the strength of the soul and we can manifest what we want in the palm of a hand. For example, if you take a groundnut seed in your hand, palm of your hand, and you look at it. You keep looking at it, then it disappears, becomes a light. Then you change your gaze, it becomes a seed. And then I was trying to see what is happening here. Is a seed or is a light? So is the gaze of my eyes through the window of my eyes is a kind of control panel that I can switch and make things become different. So I said, if I can change the gaze of my eyes in different ways, so maybe I can create fire in my hand, or I can create a red rose in my hand, or I can create gold in my hand, because these are all possibilities. It's just how do I, like a control panel, like a dialing panel, you change the strength of the soul to what you want.
I'm
Because
going to
you-
ask you a question. You're a doctor, you're a dentist. I'm going to ask you a very direct question. And this question I put to many, many religious people. It's the first time I put it in public. You talk about the eyes and you focus over there. Can you tell us why, or some cases, when a man dies, the brown of the eye moves to the top than being in the center?
That's because that's the place soul lives.
Why does the eye of the man move to the top of the eye cavity when a man dies? And what happened when it's not, or is in different position? Why majority of time the eye moves to the top?
You mean
I'll
the
leave
brown,
it to answer.
the brown
I'll
of the eye, the brown
Yeah.
of the eye goes up toward the sky, you mean?
Yeah. Why? Even you're flat, if you're flat on the bed,
Because
you
I'm
should
looking at
look up
it,
straight.
I'm looking at God.
You're looking at you. If you're flat on the bed, you should be looking up right in the center of your eyes. But one day I will answer this question. But as you're a dentist, you're a doctor, and you speak about seeing it and visualizing it, maybe some of your knowledge seekers can answer it. But why does it do that?
I need to think about it. I don't have
One
the
day I'll
answer.
give you that. One day I'll give you that.
Okay.
And in essence, we have to understand what we want to accept, what we want to see. Thank you very much. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good day, Mr. Cash. Hello to everyone. Here's Andreas from Austria. At first, I want to thank you for a very enlightening teaching, interesting teaching. And I have a question if I have understood something right. When we look at the neutron, it's a behavior, it's a giver. And when we look to the sun, for example, it's radiating out and it comes back. And when it's radiating out hydrogens, protons and electrons, they come back again. And on some place or on every place, they meet again. Like electrons and protons, hydrogens come back to the sun and meet with the hydrogens which go out. And as we know, the ones who come from the outside boundary of the solar system, they have lost their field strength and are weaker. And the ones which come from the sun are stronger. And both are 2 times electron and proton. And now the one proton and electron which comes from the sun is stronger. And it then has the behavior of a neutron, that it wants to balance the electron and proton which comes from the boundary of the universe. And this balancing act is every time in the whole universe different, because the neutron, which has the behavior of an electron and proton, which comes from the sun, has different field strengths. And so on the boundaries, gaseous planets are created, and in the middle, planets with water, and then very much solid planets. And this initial first exchange of field strength from these 2 hydrogens is the origin of the whole creation, what happens after it in all its interactions. Do I have understood that correct?
You lost me in your explanation. I don't understand exactly what you're trying to tell us. Would you like to try again?
Yes. What comes from goes back to. So the sun radiates out hydrogens. They loosen in their field strength and come back from the boundaries of the universe. And on every place in the universe, on different positions, they meet when they come back the hydrogens which are radiated out from the sun. And a hydrogen is a proton and the electron. But when the stronger one, which comes from the sun, interacts with the weaker one, which comes from the boundaries of the universe, it takes the role of the neutron. Because the neutron is just
There
a
are 2
behavior.
things. You touched something which has not been understood, but maybe in reverse, we have explained it in the atmospheric condition of the Earth. Because our physics is so upside down that it baffles me. We're still going on with it. In the present time, with the plasma knowledge, we take the interaction of the fields of the sun and the earth, and this interaction creates a friction between the field forces, which leads to creation of plasmas. And some of these plasmas, through interaction with the field of the earth and getting pulled towards it, create a light, as we see it. And some of its packages are kept or are in the extent that by the interaction of the with the inertia of the matter state create the matter. Yeah. When you speak about the creation of the hydrogen, the present world of science cannot explain it, but now we can explain it a different way. The center of the, if we change this in a way, the same process, but we change it with materials and the change of the fields on the immediate surface of the sun. When now that we understand the science of the plasma and GANs technology, we are adamant, without a shadow of a doubt, the center of the sun is not hot. It could be even at a freezing condition. But as the temperature has nothing to do with the gases and the plasma, it creates a massive interaction of the fields. That this creates a large, a very strong magnetical and gravitational pull. The interaction of these fields with these packages of matter state, what we call could be hydrogen plasma on the surface, the same as it created light here, will create two conditions. The light, or as the field energy, that the interaction become light for us, is not a light that will enlighten the whole of the solar system. And partially in this interaction, we create heat because of the density of this layer. And partially, the same history goes on. Packages of fields are created, which are released in the solar system. Everything is not as presumed today in the strength of the magnetic field radiation. This interaction, by law of physics, by understanding the plasma technology, has to, and it indefinitely creates packages of the plasma which are floating on a continuous basis or getting attracted by different processes in the solar system and are in the atmosphere of the solar system. Some of them go beyond. So we don't create hydrogen on the surface of the sun. We create plasma fields of a spectrum of plasma strength. Goes back to wave and particles, fields and photons. What is accepted and understood in one is applicable in all dimensions of the physics, cannot be any other. And the interaction of the strong fields from the plasma in the center of the sun with the plasmas of the lower strength, which created on the surface of the sun, creates the heat. Does not mean that the center of the sun is hot. And this does not mean that only hydrogen is on the surface of the sun. It's a cumulative combination of fields. And what we see has a very strong theory in the background of the centrifuge, in reverse, where you have the center of the sun creating massive gravitational and magnetic fields. In the centrifuge and in the vacuum, the heaviest goes on the boundary and the lightest goes in the center. That's the theory of the centrifuge. But sun rotates at a lower rotation speed to create full condition of plasma condition and the centrifuge. So what we see primarily is on the surface of the sun fields a strength of hydrogen plasma. Where does the heavy element created go? In world of science, as I just said before, you can't be prejudiced. You have to have answer for everything scientific. Not just because Mr. Keshe says so. It's just because scientifically has to make sense. This is why we are not a cult. Just because somebody says we accept. We are given the freedom of analysis, understanding, and developing. If at this level we see we add to the layers of the earth by attraction, by creation of plasma and conversion to the matter, the same thing should apply to here in a plasmatic condition. But we are in a centrifuge vacuum condition. Why do we get, or we claim to have only hydrogen on the surface? And as you said, because this is the way you understood, the hydrogen travels the span of the universe. This system creates on the surface of the sun particles and fields. It cannot be any other. But particle in the plasma state, fields created from interaction of the plasma states. Two plasmas interact. Scientifically, with what we understand, but what we have in nuclear reactors plasma technology, we have achieved lift and motion. We have seen creation of gravity. We've seen no heat inside our systems. We deliberately created a system to confirm this. If you go back, I'll show you how we know this, because we just don't accept it because I say so, because this was part of a research when we built this reactor. We wanted to see if the center of the plasma in the reactor has different temperature. And the answer was clearly no. And we found actually in a couple of tests that we were lower in temperature inside. Because, let me see if I can open it, then you understand the physics behind it. That's why we went completely into the plastic, or what we call PVC systems. If I open this for you big enough, and picture can be exposed. This and this picture, if you look, Dean, you're in the center. Can you take a close picture of this and send it to us immediately? I want the brass part of these two systems.
Yeah, I will do, Mr. Keshe. I'll just
send it to Rick, and the Rick can put it up.
Okay.
When we did this development, we considered if the plasma is heated inside, according to the present knowledge, that knowledge was there 15 years ago. This was built in back end of the, what we call 2007, 6. And when you look at this brass part, you will see it is in rings. And we inserted probes into the center of the reactor in different positions to measure temperature, to measure plasma current, to measure plasma flow, to understand the interaction. And in tests, physical tests, we saw no rise even at the flight condition in the plasma center position. This is why the new flight systems you have can work at room temperature. Because we are not in the dilemma of the high temperature creating fields of plasma, we are not in the cold plasma fusion condition, we understand the process of the creation and the plasma. This confirms to us, this test, 100%, that the surface of the planetary system, there we are, if you can see it, thank you very much. You see these rings? And you see there is a probe in each range which goes to the different depth of the reactor in both of them. This is a flight system support, and the other one flies. And you see it. Each ring is connected to different depth of the plasma. And at that depth, we can change the, thank you very much, Rick, this is beautiful. We can see or change the plasma composition. What happened if we changed the plasma inside at a different rate? We didn't touch the inside of it. If you look at this system, it's very simple. The line, I'm trying to annotate. Well, how can I annotate? It's not a whiteboard. Let me see if I can come in this way. I take the red. Keep the picture next to each other. If you look at this system here, I think this is the Sensano lab. This one goes to here. This one goes to the center. This one goes to another position. And the fourth one goes to another position. Sorry, it's just slightly different here and there. And this here tests the envelope of the plasma here. This tests the envelope of the plasma here. This test here, and this one the other way. And the same here. So we could increase gases and change gases through the system and see what happens. By keeping it at the centrifuge condition, we could dictate where each layer sits, what sits. We could take the outer layer off in a specific way, which developed the technology for it. And we could take this layer off and allow radiation fields in a plasmatic condition to come out, create an aura. We decided the strength of the aura. We decided what will be shown and seen here. I spent nights and days in the lab testing these. And this showed us we don't need steel and all sorts of things to create and hold the hot plasma. Temperatures, current flow between layers was continuously giving us information. Always said the biggest mistake Belgium's made was letting me go out of Belgium, where in Bruges, we were just about to complete one of the most advanced flight system control. And this is to understand on the surface. Here, by changing the composition, I could decide if I want the aura. In a way, you call it aura, I call it plasmatic field shielding, defense technology. Yesterday, I was talking to one of the most, not yesterday, before, I was talking to one of the most senior American military officers. And I explained to him, play the game with us, we become equal. Work against the Keshe Foundation, you lose. He said, Mr. Keshe, we put one of the top scientists very soon to take this matter on, because we don't have a choice anymore. We are moving technology to Arizona. We have to deal with the American military. We have to deal with American space technology. We have to deal with the Chinese space and military. They have to understand the game has changed. We have structures, we have technologies, we have built systems. But we have scattered the knowledge so much that more or less only me knows where I got to bring what out, put together to what to get. It's the same here. When we changed it to half a sphere, we created the same, but we saw the dome different. It gave us a stability in flight, it gave us a stability in control. Here, I'm at the mercy of the environment. Here, I control most of the things because I don't allow the bottom field to rotate. Here, the plasma continuously turns and creates that field change. Here, I don't have that. They only can interact. That's why the flight system are that way. Even if you look at the new reactors, we given you, if you look at it, if I can draw up here, we're giving you a platform. And something has happened to my pen, as usually. It means you don't need to know the knowledge, but you have to know the knowledge. Here at this platform, if you look at it, we have built the enhancement unit. If you look at, in reality, it should be, I go on the whiteboard. I think it's easier. Thank you very much, Rick, in the background. In reality, we, instead of making a system and creating and doing this to half a sphere, all we done in a new system, we have brought the half a sphere slightly lower. That allowed us to create a home, a dome. With this, instead of loading you from under, we load you on the sideway. But in a way, the other half of this system, if you look at it, sits here. By controlling the reactors in the structure, we can create that, what we call the fields around it, and create that sphere plasmatically. Doesn't matter what's outside the skin of the mother. The shape of the child, the face of the child decided by the mother inside. It's not only the field inside, which you look at what you're going to give us. This system is two-sided. Creates both inside and outside. Nothing has changed. Because we know how to walk, we can run and jump. That time, we had to be half spheric. Now, we don't need to be half spheric. We can be any shape because we can make that shape, but with the plasma technology we have access to now, we can make our spheres all the time the same. I need to change a few characteristics on this reactor and this reactor. I create a good enough homogeneous sphere. We just saw the panel of the control system Rick can show us. Was shown in part of this teaching this morning. All those knobs is to control everything. This is a scientific organization. And just because you don't understand it or you think of it, doesn't make it what you want it to be. Everything is tested. Everything is composition to be. All I've done for me to build what I call a massive structure that to become this as a UFO and you could get in it, I needed a huge air hangar. What I did, I changed it to this, and you walk into the dome. But this was to create a field. Now I use my reactors to do the same. I changed the shape, but with controlling reactors, I keep my fields. I'm a genius in what I do because I know what to do, because I understand the technology. We are messengers of God, and we have access to the total knowledge of the Creator. I am the Mahdi for those who have doubted it. We know how to bring man to the point, but it's for the man to understand how to get to that point. The new enhancement systems still will create fields, both ways. And as I said before in the teachings, we have built in the structure of the systems that these fields do not become dangerous to the system or to the structure of the plasma. Supports life through the blood structure, supports life in the universe according to the field interaction. It is to understand the technology. It is to understand the knowledge of creation. Then you can create whatever you like. Now we understand the totality. Enough for the man at the moment. When the knowledge seekers and the scientists of man become more educated, they will not be happy with this crumb. They want more of the cake. Then we teach that time about the cake. You got to understand a lot of things are in front of you, but you don't see it. A lot of things has been done. We had to do the test that the man sees there is no magic. Any other question?
Thank you for your answer, Mr. Cash.
You're welcome. I think as it was said in the American teachings last week or last Sunday, sometimes we learn more in the question time than in the teaching side, according to what we want to understand. The knowledge has to be shared freely, but you have to be able to understand the knowledge that it can be shared. Many other questions?
Okay, Kay, would you like to go ahead?
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Sean. How are you?
Hi, God bless you. Thank you, Rick. God bless. Thank you for beautiful teaching. Well, ever since I've come to know about you, which is roughly 12 years, I never had a word to describe you. And as time goes by, it gets harder and harder. As always, my wish is for you to be around for at least another 200 years. As God knows, we definitely need you as humanity to unravel the way for us and break away from this prison that humans created for themselves to get to this beautiful knowledge. I have a couple of questions. One is when we do get to this spaceship, God ever forbid, as it happened, like humans gave birth to disabled children, God ever forbid we could not manifest on the other side, and the soul could not gather up all the physicality, and something is missing at the time of arrival or at the point of arrival. is there any way the soul can recoup the rest of the missing parts, so to speak? Mainly, this is obviously.
There is a technology for it, yes. In time we teach.
Brilliant. So that's that.
It is like when we see the situation with the handicaps. It's very much as we opened the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute. We have at the moment planning a number of researchers to be launched immediately on its establishment. And one of them is the condition for children who are born with brain damage or structure during the birth tunnel with lack of oxygen or other, whatever happens within the womb of the mother and the birth position. And we see this as with different names, they come up when they become older or whatever. The Keshe Foundation, one of the first researchers we launched, and I'll take charge of it fully from the beginning now that the Keshe Foundation, the Spaceship Institute has been written in to become a company, is this technology, is this part of the technology, which refers back to what you said. What happened if we deliver partially missing or partially not working? We have the technology, and there's conditions which is now bothering many parents in children being born with a lack of oxygen, and we have different names for it. We have the knowledge and we can change it. And will be one of the first researchers which I will launch from the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute to prove, to show that children with brain damage born with a lack of oxygen at birth can be, during the first year of life, be corrected and develop the brain fully. That auto mechanism of the system of the body of the man can go perfect. We don't get handicapped children. And I've been asked this many times, that can they be helped? And yes, it can be done. It can. We have the knowledge to do it. And it's exactly that's what you call it. If we can do that with what we call the position and the brain of a child, we can do that at the position of the liver of a man if something goes wrong. But we need to understand how. And to what extent we can interfere and change. I do not think a child should be brain damaged or physically impaired due to a few seconds of the time of birth. We have the technology and we put this into research. It's one of the first things we will do in the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute as an institute. Research into change of the what we call newborn babies with such a condition. And if we can do that, we can do that in our flight system. Yes, it can be done.
Thank you ever so much. God bless you as well for all those unfortunate children and their parents who has been finding themselves in this situation. And I'm looking forward for that because there are so many people, so many children who are really handicapped and disabled, and it's not fair.
We have the same with the injections. The 3 childhood injections, the triple injection mix now creates a lot of this. This now can be changed using the new technology. This will be another one. People with a side effect of the injections to the children, the new side effects with the new plasma problems we have around the world. We have the knowledge, and these will be part of the what you call first stage of the research and development of the Kishore Space Institute. This is partially why, if you go back, we said the 48 units getting shipped to Arizona, part will be given to the American military for changing their mental condition. Because now we can rebuild it. We can restructure it. And this takes a lot of pain from a lot of people. And we have the knowledge. It's not beautiful, it's knowing the knowledge and the science. And thanks to our team in Austria, we'll see these rolling out on a frequent basis, regular basis. And it is something we have to understand. It's the same as now we understand the problems with what they call the new injections with different material. You can stop all the damage and use the best part of it. And the combination of the two creates a beautiful condition to be able to recover.
I'm glad to hear, Mr. Cash, because so many people will be obviously impacted with what's been rolled out, and they're carrying on pushing it to be rolled out further and further. I hope this comes to an end as soon as possible, as humanity is coming to their end, actually. Mr. Cash, my second question would have been, obviously we know for a long time you've got the key to the creation, so you know how to create. The material enhancement unit is one of them. And earlier on you talked about, as well as before in previous lectures, you've talked about giving birth or creating a fish in a tank, or even human, as you mentioned earlier. My question was, if you were to create or create a human or give birth to a human in a tank, what would happen to their DNA and RNA as it is not coming from the true soul of the mother and father? What would happen to their experience, to their emotion, and to their looks, to speak? Because this is a new creation without any previous history of RNA and DNA that you have just created. Are they going to be the same human as me and you? Well, not you, definitely. Like us, the rest of us.
We are not creating a new people. And if we do the same as when we created the copper and zinc in the lab in Austria, they carry the essence of the soul of the creation and the universe. This is the essence of the creation of Mitra. We create the soul first before we create the physicality. So when we test the materials which we produce, you cannot see it having any origin because it's created from field of the environment. Even though we use copper or zinc or whatever in producing them, they are fields of the universe, not matter state of the position of the earth where they came from. If you were in the diamond business, by looking at a diamond, you can tell if the diamond is from the ocean, if the diamond is from a mine, or the diamond is from a river. And if you become more, in depth of the knowledge, you can say from which river what stones come from majority of the time, or which sea the stone has been taken out, or which volcanic eruption has led to creation of the stone. You can tell the origin. You can do that with most of the mining goods as well. But when you tap into the universe and into universal energy, you create Mitra. You create the soul of Mitra, which gives dimension to its physicality.
Brilliant. I saw something in that manner, not in Mitra, but I thought the manner would be obviously the physicality gets manifested in the planet Earth because of its condition and its inertia.
Yeah,
But I
what
wasn't-
happened if we create him in the middle of the space? He become one of those people nowadays born in an aeroplane, then they have the Earth nationality and one nationality. You get a what they call United Nation passport. We don't have such a thing in the space. But it comes to the point that would we become the creator? And we create Mitra to have a companion and a lover, someone to love and loved by. What happened when you have this knowledge and you have the machine and you're the last one standing? Would you stay hermit on your own or use the machine to create a soul, to create your companion? This is the depth of the knowledge we give. But it depends how much man understands.
It is beautiful, Mr. Cash. Considering the fact that, obviously it's got a lot to do with how far humanity can push it. If it is done in the best of the intention, it is beautiful, because considering what's happening in today's world with this metaverse, where humanities are being forced in this virtual reality in order to find some solace and some peace and calm because of this rat race life that they've created. Being able to create a companion, at the strength of Mitra would be a blessing, an absolute blessing. Well, obviously humans are a little bit funny, and they could take things into a different
You
direction.
think Mitra
altogether.
might not become funny with the physicality?
I hope Mitra, as soon as Mitra is the
this is questionable, because we are conditioned on the condition of this planet and the environment of this planet.
I'm sure Mitra would put every soul in the right direction once it's been created. So we the human wouldn't do anything wrong out of norm, so to speak. Mr. Cash, sorry, God bless you. I've taken too much of your time, but I have one more question. Even though I asked that question a couple of years ago, again, it's an ambiguity, and it still baffles me. Again, it is a soul question. Understand that the soul, obviously, the soul of the man which has created the physicality, comes from the same source, from the creator. And understood so far, you have explained before that once we die, the soul takes different dimension and is positioned in accordance to what the physicality that it has created or manifested, which is the soul of the physicality. It takes its position in accordance to what the soul of physicality has to offer at the point of departure. I still do not understand that. Why would the soul of the man, which is from the creator, which is peaceful, which has got all the knowledge, which has got nothing but love and passion and good to do, will eventually find itself in a worse position? As you mentioned, those who've done crime and killed, genocide and so forth, they become specks of dust. Why would that poor soul has to get to a position like that just because the physicality has been misbehaved and mischieved? Well, has that justified?
Yeah, but the thing is, just that you have to understand, the soul of the man, even though it's encaged, still is responsible for the man. How come when you get enlightened through the soul, you do good things? So the soul has the responsibility. This is what it says. It's responsible for the behavior and conduct of man. Partially is what we let the soul to allow to reach the dimension of physicality. What we see has to do with what we understand of what is to come, what is to deliver. As I said, it's very strange. Keshe Foundation has taken root, or its headquarters now, in Austria, where less than a century ago we saw mayhem in this area. Beginning of one of the largest mass killings around the planet. Why did they have to come here to get root? To putting right the soul, for the souls, or to bring it back into the position to be. There is a reason we are here. It's not even we came here coincidentally, but souls bring us to the point of where it be. Maybe a lot of souls in this land need to be elevated to cover for what was there and still carried within them. We do not know, but on a dimension of physicality, we can never say so. Depends. The soul of the man has to interact to elevate, and is responsible for what the soul of physicality does. We all can kill, rape, and torture anyone. What does our soul say? It's wrong. We don't do. This is why we say this time we elevate the soul of the man that never does a crime, because it's responsible for it. And we don't frighten you with a church and a cross and what do you call it, a confession and a box and a punishment and the day of what do you call it, end of the world, Jahannam, or whatever you call it. It's the maturity of the man and allowing his soul to take over and be expanded.
Thank you ever so much, Mr. Kesh. God bless you. God bless you. And I hope the entire plasmatic world is behind you to just get to this mission and get it done as soon as possible. Bless your soul.
7 billion of man is opposing it. That's the hardest part.
I'm sure they'll come on your way. We will do all our praying. I'm sure the rest of humanity will come on your way.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Don't forget something which we, just because we don't talk about it or push it or bring it to keep it at the front, is the responsibility of the knowledge seekers and the Universal Council to carry on supporting the peace negotiations in Vienna. We have broken through and we see the end of the tunnel. We see a lot of things to break down, and thanks to everything else to keep the support for it to expand and to extend. And we have a very special request. One of our dearest friends, the Keshe Foundation, is in hospital. And we hope we need the support of the Universal Council for that soul to find position and peace. And it's come to our attention in the past 48 hours. And this soul needs a lot of support and help. And this time, you don't have a target to hit at by name, by nation, but for you to support the soul of this knowledge seekers who has been amongst us for a long time, and we all know to be supported to be able to go through these terrible times in their life, in the condition is in. And we hope to be able to overcome and bridge this point of the hardship in this life. Any other question?
Okay, we have Gatu next.
Thank you very much, Rick. Good afternoon, Mr. Kesh.
Good afternoon, Dr. Gatu.
I have 2 questions, but before that, let me thank you very much for your ever profound teachings. Having said that, I have 2 simple questions, so I want to ask them together. The first one is, I would like you to please explain to us the meaning of Mahdi. I know the background, I know a little bit, but I'd like to know in depth. And secondly, since you have just said that the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute is now headquartered in Austria, what does this mean in terms of you working within Iran? I appreciate very much your response. Thank you.
Go back to your first question.
Oh, you want me to ask again?
Yeah, to the first question.
Please explain to us the meaning of Mahdi. We know a little bit.
Mehdi in Farsi language, in the what we call in the Persian or Shia language, and the same in the Islamic world, is the one and the one brings man to its rightful position and bring a new life to change the man, and everything will be perfect. That a man does not know crime, and we understand the totality of the creation, and that's what it is. The promised one who will complete the cycle of for man to bring that what we call heaven, that there is no crime, there is no hunger, and the rest of it. So with the knowledge we have fulfilled in knowledgeably, not by talk. In the essence of the scientific basis, you all know how to feed yourself, you know how to elevate your physicality, and you can do a lot of other things that you don't need to kill. It's the time when the man chooses to switch. Secondly, is a fulfillment to understand the Creator as to be one for all. This is another promise of the Mehdi, and this has been fulfilled by the teaching of the Keshe Foundation. In a way, Keshe Foundation as a whole, as a knowledge seekers, we all become the Mehdi. In a way, we have understood the process of the creation, and we have to choose when to switch. And at the same time, we have understood that there is no need for a temple or a church or whatever to understand the uniqueness and the unison fields of the creation, what we call the Creator. So with the understanding as we did in the teaching today, you change that soul and the physicality, the neutron, the electron and proton, to the Creator and the man. It's all the same. And this has been the biggest problem for mankind. And this is the promise of what we call Mehdi, completing the cycle of understanding both the physical development and the soul development, that they are both connected through understanding of the science, not rhetoric and hidden beliefs that we don't explain. And this is what the problem is. And this is what we call the Mehdi. That's what's called the promise for the return of Christ, what we call Messiah. It's all the same name. It's the wish of the man to get to the point that he understands all and corrects his way, not by fear, but by understanding and knowledge to understand the totality. So when we say we are a Mehdi, it means we have understood. We got to the position of understanding and we share it. Then it's for others to understand from what we share. And if you understand and don't share, it becomes like stealing. We understand and we share, and this makes us messengers. We pass the message of what we understood and what we deliver. On the other hand, you need a soul to be enlightened to a level to be able to understand that can guide others. And that is the job of what we call the knowledge seekers. And this will create huge problems for what we call the Keshe Foundation, and personally for my life. The attempt of my life has been to enlist that people don't become enlightened. And another stop. Because the knowledge we share creates that condition of understanding and enlightenment for the others. And this is what the religious leaders and world government leaders are afraid of, educating people. Because when you educate people, you can't abuse people. We've seen that in the history of Iran in the past century. Iran before 1970s was 90%, 95% illiterate. And mullahs and ayatollahs could say anything. They could not read Arabic or understand Quran and made whatever they like because they had a turbine. People believed it because they could not read to us. Now, 95% of the nation is well educated. They don't understand rhetoric and made up. And then leaders cannot accept because they cannot fool anymore. And when it comes to that point, it becomes end of the term because people don't accept. The same thing is in Vatican. We see it in Italy. People don't go to church anymore. Very few. And do they believe in what the Pope says? Because there's so much abuse in that building that people start looking at what is the truth and what is there. And do we accept what they say? Because they get educated to understand. And that's what it's become. The promised one, the final, for the promised one is when your soul gets enlightened to understand the truth about yourself and your creation and your creator without anyone in between. And this is why we say every one of you is Mehdi, because you have to get yourself to that point, to that threshold. And this is one of the reasons Keshe Foundation teachings are banned from all televisions and everything, because once people understand this, we don't need them to control. But man uses television to reach the soul of the man to reach. It's very easy. But the soul of the man has to be educated. So when we say we are Mehdi, all of us are. And what we call is our own understanding of elevation of our own soul. And your job, once you understand, is to share. Otherwise, you'll be deprived. A pocket, when it's full, cannot receive more. You have to empty the pocket that you can get more in, that you can share more. It's, as I said once to one of the knowledge seekers, life is like a swimming pool, and it's got a, what do you call it, a pipe and a tap. The pipe keeps on putting the water in, and you got the control. When it reaches to a level, it doesn't let any more to come in the pool, unless on the other side of the pool you get a bucket and empty and take out of it. Then the floater goes down, and the more can come in fresh. And that's the responsibility of the knowledge seekers and every messenger. It's a pool of knowledge. And we stand on one side of it and we spread out, take more out, and the more comes with the fountain of life and knowledge from the Creator. You're that man with a bucket in hand to water the plants, which is the life of the man, and to let it grow, both in physicality and the soul. Your second question.
Thank you very much for that profound response and very detailed. I appreciate that very much, and I'm glad that part of Keshe Foundation. My second question was about you just said a few minutes ago that Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute has been now officially headquartered in Austria. And I was wondering what this means in terms of we are working within Iran, as you have said before. Thank you very much.
We came after the incident with Fabio, which was planned, and those who we kicked out of the foundation knew about my assassination, which happened by accident to become his. They thought they will finish the Keshe Foundation. And I could not teach in Italy anymore because the burden of the death of Fabio was too much. We moved out of Italy more or less, or I moved out of Italy more or less to Africa and then to China. And by whatever, we came to Austria. And knowing the situation, living in England and in Belgium, and then exiles from there to Italy, and then Africa and China. Coming to Austria, we found a peaceful nation. You'll be amazed how safe this nation is. And safety and living in peace is one of the cornerstones of my life. I never was allowed to have peace. And when I chose and we came here, we found peace, and then peace came into my private life by getting rid of those who were agitating and continuously creating and informing the government to kill. And in staying in Austria, we found a peaceful nation where we can support in a professional, legal way and correct way the structure of the Keshe Foundation. And to that means I set out with the help of the Dr. Cross Pereira to set up the condition for the establishment of the home base for the Keshe Foundation. Then what we went from country to country. In Italy, we couldn't have establishment. We went from the north to south, from north to south to live because of the misconduct of the person who we kicked out the foundation. It became impossible to live in the house in the north where we started the Keshe Foundation Space Institute for the conditions of absolute misconduct, which became public to the whole area, and we could not stay there anymore. And in the south became the same. And then we found out it's also all getting poisoned and then murder of family. We found peace in Austria. And with it, we set up slowly establishing, making the ground that we find permanent home. And we established the first company, which is the Keshe Foundation, Austria. And then it came the other branches of, now it's about 7 companies under the banner of the Keshe Foundation Austria, and most of the subsidiaries of the Keshe Foundation worldwide, except Markray, is controlled and held by the Austrian company as a parent company. And that process allowed us to create the Keshe Foundation space, GmbH, which allowed us now to become a space organization. Keshe Foundation, the space program, always has been on the internet and teaching on the background of different structures. Now it's an independent flight system company. We can test, we can produce, we can manufacture. We've been given this permission by the Austrian authorities. Then we set up the Keshe Foundation TV on the same way. And now the Keshe Foundation Space Institute has become a registered company. And we physically are opening what we call a university institute, research institute. It's not anymore that you come on the teaching of 9 to 5 on the internet. We are securing premises as a first institute here, and then it moves into Arizona and Tehran. And there is negotiation with Chinese government to extend this to Beijing, to do the institute, and there is some agreements with the Chinese authorities at the moment. So, even the Chinese and other structures of the institute now are physically a company. Now we can do research, not just the way you do it as knowledge seekers. We can apply to do a research in, let's say, effects of the corona. And because we are an institute, we are allowed to research, we can budget it, we can instruct and employ and bring scientists to do the research officially. This is the change. And now we are a GmbH owned by the Keshe Foundation in Austria. We can operate totally different. Up to now, you did the research somewhere or you did something somewhere. Now we can do it and structure it as an institute, publish papers, and bring other world scientists and give a different dimension, the legal structure that you can buy. And this is the beauty of the Keshe Foundation Institute. In the next few weeks, we'll present you with the Institute physical research centers. And not only we bring the knowledge seekers, but we bring the scientists from around the world to do research the way we do. The way it's done systematically, with everything which fulfills the present scientific criteria. Keshe Foundation Space Institute on the internet, which I've seen hundreds of you are joining to be a student of, now has a physical structure institute research. We have not made it to university. We keep it as an institute because to make it to university, then we have to give degrees and all sorts of things. Keep it as an institute allows us to do research straight on top end of the market of the science. And then we'll see the next step. Keshe Foundation has now as a company, as I said, in Austria. Keshe Foundation Space Institute is a company. Keshe Foundation is space to develop the space technology. First time in Austria. We're doing this as a company. Then we have other side of the production of the Keshe Foundation and others. We are now 7 companies. A parent company helps Keshe Foundation, what we call Austria, which Keshe Foundation Austria does all the negotiations with all the governments and different part of the Keshe Foundation. Keshe Foundation Austria owns 99% shares of the Keshe Foundation China, which is a multi companies again itself the same. Now we have established the Keshe Foundation in England that will expand to the same way with what we call the Keshe Foundation Knowledge Seekers in UK. I'll be paying a visit in UK very soon to establish the whole structure of the center there. Then we have the same thing in Arizona, which John is now as a center, it become an institute, the flight system, the same pattern. And we have invited the American military at the highest level and NASA to join us in the institute in Arizona. We now set up the same thing in Tehran with the support and work of the USAC. So Keshe Foundation now is taking shape, exactly the same thing all over the world, but headquarters operating out of Austria. And we have now, we do everything very professionally. We don't rely on knowledge, as I said before. We bring experts to do the job. I explained to you what we've done with Mark Ray. You will see Mark Ray will, on the support and the lending from the Keshe Foundation, will start a massive development in US and research. But that's when we complete the agreement with Mark Ray and we push to the next steps. Mark Ray forward planning is to come into NASDAQ, and that way we allow most of the knowledge seekers to be involved in a deeper way in what we call what they want to be part of, to be done in the international level. We brought experts with thanks to Armin and John and the new team which has joined us. We have brought international auditors into the Mark Ray, and everything you will see will be reported perfectly to create a condition that becomes the backbone of the spread of the technology around the world. We have the same structure now with the Keshe Foundation Space Institute in Austria will become Keshe Foundation Space Institute, Tehran, Arizona, and the other places. And we have created a very close team to run everything, but with the experts. We bring a team of experts and the people who are responsible for a country with the advice of the experts we bring in, we develop. It's not just knowledge seekers to do it anymore, we did before. Step by step, we go for collaboration with experts of each section and each country. And the Spaceship Institute now, as a scientific institute, accepted and registered into the structure of the Austrian government, becomes a proper qualified research, and as a research center into a space in energy, in medicine, and everything else, allows us to literally, when we say with the new plasma condition, these are the things, we release the scientific, we bring knowledge seekers, doctors who can do the research and get, what do you call it, qualified research, that when the institute releases the research paper, is bona fide. It stands on its own strength, step by step. And this is the change. It's not just on the internet anymore. It's a company with address and with the capability, thanks to a lot of work done by Klaus and the Keshe Foundation team now in Austria that is getting kicked up to the next step. We are recruiting a lot of people, knowledge seekers and non-knowledge seekers in the background and in the front to make sure everything is done specifically, everything is done correctly to every step. You will see the new catalogs, you will see a lot of things now is getting done. We have literally, we're not relying on knowledge seekers, it's done, paid by employees of the Keshe Foundation around the world. We changed in the past year because there's nobody to report to, stop or distract or cause problem for us. The knowledge seekers who sit on the top of the structure work as one team and it's working. And we expect a massive expansion in many directions and we feed it back too. That's why if the Universal Council can actually do their job properly, you can tell us where you want the next enhancement flight unit, but the institute, which is the research center of the whole lot, has to be happy with what goes on. We're just not sending a unit to be there for some people, kids in the university to play with. Your nation has to become a player in a space technology, not something just come in and kept in the back garage or in part of the university. We have become professional and we work that way. And we have worked with the knowledge seekers who actually carry the expertise and outside expertise we brought in. There's no game to play the way it was done. If we get somebody, now you want to stop something with Keshe Foundation, you have to go to big institutes who work with us, back us, advise us, and see how much you can play. And we keep our eyes open, institutes can be interfered to as well. But now we work through consultancies. Last night we brought in a new consulting team with our work. And the knowledge seekers who are responsible for that section are sitting with the, what they call it, the experts, that the work in it has of the Keshe Foundation, all the Keshe Foundation is carried out. And we actually teach them. And it's not anymore, if we kill Mr. Keshe, everything stops. Now you've got to kill hundreds of people to stop this process. So we bend it gradually. And we've done it gradually. A bunch of Peter files in Germany and in Linz and in Austria or in Belgium, just making fake names and making things on the internet, it's long gone. You have to understand that the Keshe Foundation Austria now has been brought to become an industrial organization. We are not a company with the permission of Austrian government, we become industrialists, which means we bring industry and governments protect the industries because they create jobs. Keshe Foundation from now on is an industrial organization, not just the Keshe Foundation. Keshe Foundation GmbH Austria is an industrial conglomerate organization which is set up to become working across with different companies of the Keshe Foundation worldwide. Will become a massive workforce and a massive bringing assets to Austria from now on, now that the government has changed the Keshe Foundation status to industrial status. Government trading companies come and go. Industrials bring long-term jobs to the country, and we have shown it to the Austrian government, and thanks to a lot of work by the Keshe Foundation team, both by Klaus and Caroline and the others in the background, has given us that facility to be there. And we stick to it. We have chosen Austria to be the headquarters of the Keshe Foundation, not only just because I live here, we become independent of where I live, but it becomes a center point in a very safe country, in a safe nation with a defined rules and regulations which reinforces us the rest of the companies work with to fall within that boundary of definition of the rules of the Austrian government. And it doesn't matter where we are, we have to live under some government somewhere. And I think we have chosen the right country for, what do you call it, to bring a professional, solid scientific organization into working solid and professional across the planet. And that's the reason we are in Austria, and that's why Keshe Foundation Space Institute now, as a company, can do a lot of research. You bring the research to us, our team recognizes, yes, there is a need for it. We can do something with it. A team of minimum 3, you join in. You'll be given the laboratories, you'll be given the facilities. You say, you want to be 6 months. I'm supporting my own time and I want to do the research, scientific paper. You'll be registered with the government that such a research is going on. That when it comes to it, they'll research it. We have a track record that this research has been done. We bring in other universities and the rest of the scientists to work with us. We become well organized and it's taking time, but we are there now. As I said to our people, just because we are given the Keshe Foundation Space GmbH as a company, and the government doesn't allow you. They studied, they analyze what we can do, what is possible, and they want to have their inspectors in their production line and in testing. We said, no problem. So we have officially, like any other company, as a flight system, we now operate on that structure. And all the enhancement units flight system has to pass the regulation of the Austrian government before it goes, because they put the inspectors in our production system. And that's what we agreed in our meetings with them. Any other question?
Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe. And my wish is that the peace you have found be everlasting. And we definitely look forward to the spread or expansion of all these good things, all these scientific discoveries and into Africa and the world. Thank you very much. Indeed.
Thank you very much. You know, I love Africa, and I've tried many times to work within Africa. And now we have structures which bring that into the next step, how we can operate in Africa. We're working with the ambassadors and a couple of leaders in Africa that we don't run into the problem of being bribed in the background by the, what we call, others through Belgium or somewhere else. We have set up a structure for Africa, and you will see us coming up in a couple of nations in a very solid way through the work of the Keshe Foundation, knowledge seekers inside the government. You will see us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you very
just
much.
remember that it doesn't get better than Kenya. So when you concentrate on
the
Kenya,
whole of Africa is beautiful. I have traveled enough across Africa. It's a continent which takes your life and your love.
yeah, that's my way of inviting you to Kenya. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank
Keshe.
you very much indeed.
Best
We were about
wishes.
to come to have a conference with you, but the corona came.
Yes.
It just happened that way. No problem. Shall we call it a day, Rick?
Sure, Mr. Keshe, you're kind of into double, triple overtime here now, so don't think we can
Yeah.
afford to.
I had an international conference at 1 o'clock. I'm 2 minutes late.
Very good.
Okay.
Out of the fire or into the frying pan or something like that. Okay, thanks, Mr. Keshe.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you indeed. Thank you indeed for today, and I hope we enjoy the rest of the knowledge we share in the future with each other. Thank you.
Well, thank you for today's teaching, which was in detail in many areas, and we look forward to more of the same in the future Knowledge Seekers workshops here. Thank you. Okay, that brings to an end today's workshop, but people that still have questions open can bring them into next week's workshop so we can have a look at them there. Thank you, everybody, for participating and offering your questions today to help move along the understanding of the plasma technology. And we look forward to the next public teaching is with the One Nation, One Planet One Race for World Peace and Justice. And that will be on Tuesday. Let me just get the date here. Tuesday, January 26th. And that's starts at 4 p.m. So sorry, it's Tuesday, January 25th, 26th, 25th. And that starts at 4 p.m. Central European time. Okay, thanks everyone. I'll play a couple of the Keshe Foundation videos to go out with here. And thank you again for being present in today's workshop.